俺は信じている。皆の願いは天に届くと。
Yo, what's up, lad here? How's it going? We're here at the end of the year, it's finally December, and with that comes a new traveler, EX Hikari. He's a light cleric of the Domination faction hailing from Side Celestia, and he's here to make elemental damage great again. He has been buffed, just like in Taiwan server, making him possibly the #1 DPS in the game, even when up against Pardis or Kani. Of course, he'll require a few select travelers to make him great, but with his introduction, we are now starting the staff and elemental meta, so with that, let's go ahead and check him out. His VA is still the same, Yoji Matsuda, so nothing new here, but let's head over to his notable damaging skills. His first one is an SP cost of 61 that becomes 49. It's a 4-hit random target light elemental damage attack, and each hit lowers light resist for 2 turns, and then he gives himself 1 conjurer point. Now these points are very much like Nephi's chair points, where the more she accumulates, the more passives become available. His second ability is an SP cost of 36. It's a 3-hit single target light damage attack, potency 135, and in Kagura stance, this becomes a 5-hitter. He's very much like Arika, where he has 2 different stances. And then his third ability is an SP cost of 68 that becomes 54. 4-hit AoE light damage attack, potency 65, and in Kagura stance, this becomes 7 hits. For his EX skill, after he gets 6 or more conjurer points and 2 usages per battle, it's a 4-hit single target light damage attack, potency 85, and he restores 100% of his SP. For his ultimate at level 1 to level 20, he gives all allies a 10% to 20% at level 20 elemental attack and light elemental damage up for 2 to 3 turns at level 20, and then he does a 8-hit AoE light elemental damage, potency 45 at level 1 and 65 at level 20. And using his ultimate at 200%, this becomes a 10-hitter. Next we have his notable support skills. His first one is his Blasting Lantern, or his TP skill. It's an SP cost 35. He gives himself 50 to 125 SP recovery based on that boost level, and 1 to 4 conjurer points again based on that boost level. And if he's in Kagura stance, he doubles the SP recovered. His second support skill is an SP cost of 84. He recovers the front row's SP by 8% of their max SP, and also gives them a 5% SP regen 2 to 5 turns based on boost level. And he also gives himself a +1 conjurer point. And if he is in Kagura stance, he targets all allies. His last support skill is an SP cost of 70 that becomes 59. He gives the front row a 50% elemental attack, crit elemental damage, and a 30,000 damage cap up. And he also gives himself a +1 conjurer point, and while he's in Kagura stance, he targets all allies. For his passive, he's able to switch to Kagura stance whenever he wants, and while he's in the Kagura stance, he gives himself a 75% potency up, and all allies gain a 15% elemental attack and light elemental damage up, but being in Kagura stance consumes 25% of his max SP each turn. The second passive, while he's in the Kagura stance, any ally that attacks, he deals an additional +1 AoE light elemental damage attack, potency 100. For his third passive, he gives himself buffs based on the conjurer points that he has. If he has 3 or more, it's like fire, ice, wind, and lightning. If he has 5 or more, he deals a preemptive 2-hit light elemental damage attack, potency 100. And if he has 7 or more, he gives himself a 10% max SP regen. And if he has 9 or more, he gives himself a 20% elemental damage up, and also raises elemental attack and light damage cap to 50% for himself, and he's able to crit with elemental damage. And then lastly, for his last passive, at full HP, he gives himself a 15% crit rate and light elemental damage up, and also a 100,000 damage cap up. Then he has a 10% in light resistance and 20 in dark. Taking a look at his stats here, he's focused mainly on elemental attack, as he has the highest elemental attack stat for clerics in the entire game, even still on the JP side. It's a whopping 590 at level 120. His speed is on the lower side, and his HP isn't all that great, so watch out for that. So now for the main question, should you pull? He's pretty good. He'll be our first taste into what elemental damage can do. He plays somewhat the same as Arika. He's able to switch between his normal form and his Kagura form. You want to build up his points to activate his passives. Now he has been buffed, so his damage output has been increased to almost 2 to 3 times. And the reason being is that firstly, his skills have been given an additional hit from 3-hitter that becomes 5, and then another ability, a 4-hitter that becomes 7. And then next, his passive now gives him a innate 75% potency up to all his skills. Nextly, we then have his ultimate, which has been given the most buffs. It now increases auto attack and light damage to 20% to all allies, and on top of that is also a 8-hitter at 100% with the ultimate gauge. It becomes a 10-hitter, of course, at 200%. Now going back to what I said at the beginning, he'll need other travelers to increase his damage. Firstly, the most important, the traveler that we've seen before, Crick. He has been buffed. His passive allows all clerics in the team to get a 2 times to their potency. Well, this essentially means that with EX Hikari, all of his skills will have a 100% potency up at all times, of course in his changed form in battle. Now let's compare this to the top 2 DPS in the game. Firstly, Kaine. She has a potency up of 120%, only when she consumes 5 or more BP. She's limited to only light and daggers. not having Tiziano to implant dagger weakness definitely hurts her damage output, and then not having Ari or her ultimate awakened limits her damage output, as supplying 5 BP to a character for the next 3 turns can be difficult if you don't have specific support characters like Shana or EX Rinyu. Next we have Partis. He gains a 200% potency up, similarly to Kaine, but now at 4 more BP when consumed. And he's able to hit fire, sword, lightning, and dark weaknesses, along with dagger and bow weaknesses with his EX skill. His damage output is timed, just the same as Kaine, as he has to activate his ultimate first to then get 3 turns of double cast. Like Kaine, not having Ari or leveling his ultimate to level 2 severely hurts his damage output, comparing this to EX Hikari along with Crick in the party. Again, he now has access to a 150% potency up at all times to his skills, and once he gets 3 more contour points, he's able to exploit fire, ice, wind, and lightning weaknesses. He'll also get better once we get Midia, who is a physical support, allowing you to shave even more shields, and then Relisha, another cleric, who allows clerics to exploit staff weaknesses with elemental attacks. This in total is giving clerics and elemental damage a comeback. More importantly, if you didn't pull with Crick, and you're not going to pull Midia and possibly Relisha in the future, EX Hikari is a skip, as just a simple 75% potency to his skills are somewhat mediocre. Now with the introduction of EX Hikari, elemental attackers are just becoming decent, but it still doesn't offer the level of support that physical damage has gotten. Firstly, we don't have too many accessories that reduce elemental resistance or elemental defenses, but you having to be a dolphin. We don't have too many skills or ultimates out there that increase or decrease elemental damage. Now, using Partis as an example, as he is currently the strongest physical DPS traveler, he himself is a sustainable self-DPS, as he's able to exploit many useful weaknesses. You can use him as your only DPS and you'll do fine, but COTC at the very beginning has always favored physical damage. We have keepers such as Meowvelus that increase physical attack, we don't need passives for being able to crit with physical damage, and overall, it's easier to increase our physical attack and damage, as older travelers that we've seen are able to do this for us. Now for EX Hikari, he can hit all the elemental weaknesses in the game, except for Dark, but he doesn't have access to exploiting physical weaknesses without the help of either Midia or Relisha. So if you pull for EX Hikari, you're gonna find yourself needing to pull for these two as well too, and of course Crick, to fully utilize his potential. So honestly, if you already have the Kaine and Tiziana combo, or even Partis himself, and are planning to save your rubies for the next big DPS, keep on saving rubies, as EX Hikari now can be an upgrade, but at the cost of a lot of rubies. Now our next big DPS traveler is going to be a warrior, and we'll be heading back to physical damage. So keep that in mind now if you're planning to pull for EX Hikari. Moving on, we have his A4 accessory, which has also been buffed. It's a 140 to elemental attack, and when breaking an enemy, inflicts a 10% elemental defense down for 3 turns. And if that equipped traveler spends 3 more BP, he gives that traveler a 15% elemental attack up and a 50,000 damage cap up. This is quite good for someone like EX Hikari, as he has access to many multi-hitting attacks, possibly making him your primary breaker, and of course a elemental DPS. The 140 to elemental attack stat is okay. It's not the highest that we've seen before. It's not Partis A4 or Kaine A4 levels of stat increase, but it's a respectable 140, and as we're talking about elemental attack, this may be decent for now, but I would consider this a nice to have accessory. If you had to choose between getting his A1 or awakening his ultimate, I would slightly put his ultimate awakening above A1, as it's going to increase his uptime of getting his points racked up, while of course shaving up to 8 shields or 10 shields to enemies that are weak to light. Moving forward, longevity. You can still see him being used in the future. His passive gives him a 15% in both light and elemental attack while in his changed form, and his ultimate gives all allies elemental attack and light damage to all allies. This will prove to be quite useful moving forward, as light is one of the more common elemental weaknesses in the game, and future elemental attackers mainly use light attacks. Not to also mention the fact that he has a 2-hit light preemptive attack in the beginning of their turn, and also deals a 1-hit AoE light attack when your allies attack. This of course allows you to shave many shields all at once. Of course with that, he's able to exploit the other elements in the game, such as fire, ice, wind, and lightning. It's a pity that he's not able to exploit dark as well. Anyways, with that, let's go ahead and finish up. Okay, the design, he looks pretty cool. He still has his iconic red gear underneath his clothes. For his VA, still the same. Abilities, 4.25 out of 5. His buffed abilities are great, but just like Kaine to Tiziano, don't need Crick to make him really shine as a DPS. Longevity, 4.5 out of 5. With his preemptive attacks and his follow-up attacks, along with his buffed abilities to increasing light and elemental attacks, he has solidified his way in the future when we start getting relevant light elemental attackers. Global buff, 5 out of 5. Any sort of buffs are good buffs, and his buffs were spectacular, transforming him from a decent elemental attacker to possibly the best elemental DPS in the game. Time limited, yes, he's part of the Inside Celestial Memory Traveler banner, the same as the OG OCTOPATH Travel 2 Travelers. Overall impression, 4.3 out of 5, making elemental damage great again. I still recall the time when we were all waiting for Cyrus to come out. When he did come out, the amount of damage that he did, and then everything else after that was physical users. Up until now, Umto Travelers were decent, but there weren't any notable Umto Travelers that matched up to Pardas or Kanye's damage until now. He's good, and his buffs made him to top 3 of the damage dealers in the game. But of course, you'll need Crick to make him shine. And as said before, Midia and possibly Relisha, but of course, they're not out yet. But anyways, with that, I'll do a few pulls for him, as Crick somehow decided to come home early for me. But let me know if you'll be pulling for him. I'll catch you next time. Take care of yourself like always, lad out.